Hello, and welcome to When Bad Things Happen to Good People, a podcast about censorship and the arts. My name's Todd Sullivan. With me, as always, is my good friend Oren Barter.
That's me.
And today we're talking about the children's book, Prince and Knight. Hey, how's it going, Oren? It feels like it's been a while since we've chatted now that we're on this kind of 2-week schedule.
It does feel like a while. It's like, I actually had like a bit of a panic. It's like, oh my God, did I forget about the podcast? I was like, oh no.
Yeah, well, so speaking of that, as I told you earlier this week on Tuesday, as I reached out to you to be like, oh man, I just realized we need to plan the next podcast. I realized that I actually hadn't published the previous episode on the Sunday like it's supposed to go out.
Even though it was like totally like we had it ready for like a week almost, right?
It was ready a week before, and I asked you to do that so I could like upload it, have it scheduled to go out so everything will go out in time. And then I was like, I can do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow was like, I can do it tomorrow. And then the day after that, I'd forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And then just blanked on it until the Tuesday when I was planning the next one. I went, but it was like, no, I couldn't have done that. And so I actually had to go to our Podbean site and check to see if it was there, and it wasn't. It was like, oh, what? So
it's all good. It's all
even
good.
though we're giving ourselves more time, we're like later than ever. Which I don't know how that happens.
That's all right.
So to our listeners who expect a prompt release schedule, you have my apologies. This one is entirely on me. Yeah. How is things going in your neck of the woods?
Not too bad. I mean, we're not on fire like you are. We're not nearly as bad here. It's smoky here.
Yeah.
It's been hot. We got a dump of rain today, but only for like 20 minutes. Didn't really feel like it was long enough. And then, in terms of my life, I pretty much like had, I think, one shift in the last 2 weeks at work. So I was getting a little bit worried.
And it was today.
What's that?
And it was today, right?
No, I had one like last Tuesday, and then I got called in for yesterday. And then while I was at work today, I got picked up 3 other shifts.
Nice.
From now until next Tuesday. So it's like, okay, that's a little bit of that's a lot better. I was gonna walk in and be like, I'm still employed here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's being on call. Sometimes you get lots of hours. Sometimes you get none.
I was going to wonder whether scheduling like that might make you wonder whether you made the right, career shift.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You still think it's a good
Oh
choice?
yeah. I'm really lucky. I'm not really in a place where like I've got all the financial pressures on me. So I can take a risk for a possible later reward. So I'm really lucky there.
Sort of exciting thing at my end here. I am now, last month I got, my pitch to tell a Story Hive was approved, and I am now hard at work on a project for Tell a Story Hive.
Yay!
To deliver a 60-minute video on myths and mysteries here in Kamloops, BC, which is pretty wild.
That's freaking awesome.
Pretty wild. And it is going to come out kind of connected in at least branding to Half Cut Conspiracies, another podcast I do. We're calling this Half Cut Myths and Mysteries. It's me and Carlo Sia, who's my co-host over there, and we are going to go out and see what we can dig up as far as mostly ghosts, it seems like. I was open to covering sort of as broad a series of topics as possible, but it really came down to what we could find people wanting to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point, we've interviewed a couple of ghost hunters, and then the hope is next week we can get into at least one of a couple of potentially haunted locations that we're looking at, since they're both kind of up in the air at the moment. I don't want to name any locations, but fingers crossed that we'll get into at least one of them to poke around. hear some other people's stories about what they experienced there, and maybe even bring some of the ghost hunters along that we chatted with this week. So
nice.
That'll be cool. I don't know exactly when it's going to end up in Tellus's hands. I'm delivering the final product by August 16th. And at some point after that, it will be on one of their on-demand streaming service channels.
Oh, okay.
And then as far as I understand it, we'll also retain ownership of the finished product, and we'll be able to put it up on YouTube or wherever we want to do with it as well. So,
very cool.
Are you drinking anything interesting tonight?
Not really. I was kind of thinking I was going to stop drinking, and then I didn't. So I've got Pacific Light, which is like 3.2. So it's basically water, right?
Okay. Yeah.
100 calories, 9
Nice.
carbs. I don't know what
9
that means,
carbs?
but it sounds low.
It's not. 1 carb is low.
1 carb is low. Okay, so it's not Pacific Low, it's Pacific Light, so I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess light is different than like low carb. I don't know what the average beer carb is. Maybe 20, so maybe 9 is like light compared to that. But
okay.
I know when I'm buying beer, it's usually between like 1 and like 2.5 or 3, that kind of thing. Although that's when I'm looking for low carb beer, and right now I am drinking like full carb beer because I can occasionally have 1 or 2 of those before drinking the low carb or zero carb stuff, like, doing shots of vodka. But I went back to my, is it Dead Frog? Yeah. My Dead Frog sour sampler pack. So
nice.
I had the berry one a little earlier, and now I have the peach lemonade.
Was it berry good?
It was very good, yes. And I will be following up the peach lemonade with, I think it's a mango, hang on. A mango mojito sour.
Oh, okay.
So there's going to be a hint of like mint in there as well. So that's where I'm at tonight. Now, speaking of alcohol, let's talk about something else that kids like. It's called Prince and Knight. And it is hang on. I've got my lists of most frequently banned books handy here, if you'll give me just a moment. It's not super high on the list of the most banned of the last decade. It's 91st for the last 10 years. And I think that's in part because it was published in 2018. So it hasn't had as much of a chance to be banned. It was the 5th, I think. Yeah, 5th most banned in 2019.
Oh, okay.
Now, normally when we talk about, why these books were banned, we do that at the beginning, and then we talk about the book. But I think, especially when we talk about kids' books, it might be more interesting to talk about the content of the book before getting into the reasons that it was banned, because quite often when I look at these books, and we did this sort of, really the last one we did that was really controversial was I Am Jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And, it really wasn't a tarot. It was a really good book. It was a really well done story about this transgender child, her experience, and told in a way that can help other kids learn about that side of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really interesting to describe what is ultimately a pretty basic story and a pretty heartfelt, non-controversial message, and contrast that with what people are claiming about this book.
Okay.
So
that okay probably sounded so weird. I was mid-yawn. Okay.
Yeah. I could hear you. I could hear your yawn ending as you said that. Do you want to do another take of that, or?
Okay. Oh wait, you wanted the better one. Okay.
It's fine.
There we go. Okay.
It's fine. I'll keep both yawns. It's all good.
Okay.
Sorry? Okay. All right. So, yeah, Prince and Knight, there's not a lot to talk about here. It's a really basic story. It's basically a fairy tale, very short. Most pages have like 2 to 4 lines on them. They rhyme in
pictures, yeah.
Big pictures, very kind of Dr. Seuss style rhymes. It's the story of this prince who is about to ascend to the throne, and his parents are like, well, we need to find you a bride.
Mm-hmm.
And so they travel around, and he meets all of these eligible women, and it's just not interested. Nothing really clicks. And then, what happens?
And then, a dragon attacks their town.
Yes.
Right?
And it's a vicious dragon.
Did I skip anything? A vicious dragon attacks the town.
Yeah.
And the prince hears of this, and he races home to protect his kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to the dragon, and he's facing the dragon, but he's not alone. There's a knight.
A knight appears.
In
shining armor.
Very shining armor. I like the use of the shining armor, because the way that the knight helps the prince defeat the dragon is by shining the sun into the dragon's eyes and blinding it.
Yeah,
with his shiny ass army. Yeah.
His shield, he shines the light off the sun, light of the sun off the shield into the dragon's eyes, which allows the prince to leap onto the dragon's back and tie the dragon up with
some rope that he didn't have 2 seconds ago.
Well, I mean,
and it must be some really Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it must be some really strong rope too.
Or a really weak dragon when you get down to it.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, maybe the dragon is relying too much on his fiery breath and not enough on his upper body strength.
He's not doing push-ups anymore. He's just like, he's like, I got this. I got this.
I got fire breath. What more do I need? Oh, no, I'm tied up now. But then after he ties up the dragon, he gets like knocked off the back of the dragon. And now, oh no, the prince is plummeting to his death.
But the knight races.
What should the knight do?
The knight races to save him, catches him.
Yes.
In his arms. And when the prince falls into the knight's arms, they look at each other, they have an instant connection, and they fall instantly in love.
And then they get married, and they live happily ever after, as everyone in fairy tales should.
Exactly.
That's the whole book.
That's it. That's the book.
That's it.
It's well illustrated. There's nothing. It's just a simple kid's book.
It's got the kind of the kind of rhymes that you kind of come to expect in this kind of book. So Prince and Knight, I guess I haven't mentioned the authors yet, or author. It's written by Daniel Hack, and illustrated by Stevie Lewis. Published in 2018. It was named to the American Library Association's 2019 Rainbow List Top 10. It was also a Goodreads Choice Award nominee for Best Picture Book and was named a Best Children's Book of 2018 by Amazon, the Chicago Tribune, Kirkus Reviews, and Pop Sugar.
Oh, wow.
It's also been banned.
Mm-hmm.
Which, as I said, it was the 5th most challenged book of 2019. And the reasons for the book being challenged include its LGBTQIA plus content, for being, quote, a deliberate attempt to indoctrinate young children with the potential to cause confusion, curiosity, and gender dysphoria, and for conflicting with a religious viewpoint. Deborah Caldwell Stone, executive director of the Office for Intellectual Freedom, says, our concern as an organization is the fact that many of the books are age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate books intended for young people, but are challenged because they allegedly advance a political agenda or sexualize children. According to findings from the ALA, the challenges came from parents, legislators, and religious leaders. Because
how is that any different than, a princess meeting her Prince Charming?
And that's exactly what I was thinking, right? So here's the quote from. So it was challenged in one location in Upshur County, West Virginia. A Calvary Chapel Mountain Highlands pastor named Josh Layfield brought his opposition to the book to the school, and he made a post on Facebook that said, "This book is a deliberate attempt to indoctrinate young children, especially boys, into the LGBTQA lifestyle. This book is deliberately appealing to their imagination, creativity, and their innocence. Children's books, which are promoted by the state and put into circulation by taxpayer funds, should remain innocent. Unfortunately, this is an intentional leading of children into sin." I don't see, I mean, obviously my take on what sin is different than people who actually think that sin exists, because I don't. But like you said, I don't see how this story is any different than a story that features a prince that meets and falls in love with a princess.
Yeah, how dare you push your straight
indoctrinate
agenda.
My children into this.
Okay, you want to talk about like indoctrinating children, attacking or using their innocence against them? Like let's have a look at the church a little bit there. You pretty much just laid out the church's whole fucking game plan. Right?
Yeah, that's maybe a fair argument. Yeah, I don't understand how anyone, and again, it's a difference in perspective, but and maybe that's where they see the indoctrination, in that it is such an ordinary, simple, appealing message of a person. I'm going to leave gender out of this. A person who meets and falls in love with another person, and those people live happily ever after. Except in the minds of some people, those people in that story need to be of a certain gender. Otherwise, it's indoctrination to sin.
See, and that's like exactly what the book is trying to fight.
But it's not even in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, like when you look at I Am Jazz, that was a book that was about saying, like, this is a unique thing.
Yeah.
I have this unique perspective, and I living this unique life that maybe you're not living. And so I'm telling my story to try to help you understand.
Yeah.
What I think is really great about Prince and Knight is it doesn't do that.
It doesn't make a big deal about it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no part at the end.
It's just a story, and they just happen to be the same gender.
Yeah, like they could have done this thing where like the prince and the knight meet and they fall in love. Oh, but the prince's family doesn't approve, and so they have to run away and hide, and da-da-da. And there could be this whole other adventure of them trying to prove that their love is worthy.
Yeah.
But no, it's just they fell in love. That's cool.
And the queen, the king and queen were like, finally, we found somebody who's perfect for our son. Or perfect for our boy. That's what they said.
Thank God we can finally die now and he can take the throne. Because we're getting tired. Yeah, that's what I think is great about it, is that it doesn't treat this as anything particularly unique or... And I think, obviously, as we move forward in time and these things become less and less strange and less unique.
Hopefully.
We'll see more and more books where that's just the thing. Interestingly, actually, I was talking to my ex and my daughter's mother about this trilogy of films that I watched today with my daughter Morrigan. A trilogy of horror films recently released on Netflix called Fear Street. And what was interesting about the film, beyond obviously it was a really good horror film and a really good horror trilogy, but the lead character is a lesbian. And it's outside of the fact that her love's mother didn't approve, it really wasn't treated like a big thing. It was just, that's who the character is.
That's just the character, yeah.
She's in love with a woman. Yeah. All right, cool. And, we were talking and she mentioned that, the problem with a lot of queer stories or queer films is that they get so fixated on being that as an identity that they fail to be an interesting story in its own right. And I think that as writers begin just treating these these sexual orientations or these type of people as just ordinary characters in a story, and again, focus on the story first, that's good storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if the lead is man, woman, gay, straight, transgender, whatever. They're all equally valid people, equally valid characters, and it should be equally valid in a story.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's definitely something to, like, with I Am Jazz. That was, it was a story. It was the journey was about the Jazz's identity. That was the story, right?
Oh,
so there's definitely times where that's going to be the case. But I totally agree with you. Like, I do like to see characters in these, like, characters with these orientations, just like you say, just being characters. Like, I think Umbrella Academy. Did you ever watch that?
I've seen the first season, but not the second.
Okay. I don't know if this was on the first season or the second. It's been a while since I've seen it. But one of the characters, I think it was the second season, you find out that he fell in love with another man in the army. He ended up in the army in the past somehow. And, they kind of lived this whole life and fell in love. Before that, it wasn't a big part of his character. It didn't become a big part of the character afterwards. And the story was just it was just a love story. It was it was a tragedy. But yeah, I liked how that was done in that series. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to what you said about I Am Jazz too, I think, like, as I was saying, as these, I don't want to say people, but like as these different genders and orientations and all these things become more ordinary or more, out and whatever, that's where we're going to start to see them just existing more in regular stories. And I think we're at a point now where, transgender people they're still struggling for representation right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're where, the gay community was like 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so we are at a stage where we do need to have those books like I Am Jazz to explain their experience to people who don't get it. Because I'll admit myself, I spent a long time not really understanding what it meant to be transgender.
Mm-hmm.
And probably, did my fair share of making some very inappropriate jokes about it. And I feel bad that I had done that in the past, but it came out of ignorance. And I'm glad to have been open-minded enough to continue to try to understand that perspective. And I still have probably way more that I could learn. But I am grateful for, like, even something as simple as I Am Jazz, helped open my eyes to what that experience might be like for a child versus what it might be like for an adult. And so I'm, even though we do have a necessity now for books like that are focused just on kind of the experience rather than just using a transgender person as a character within a more fulfilling story. It's good that we still have those books that are teaching us those things, and we'll get more and more to the point where we can have them just as characters in a story.
Let's talk about why this book was banned. Or no, I guess we did that already.
Yeah, I mean, both times it was banned. It was banned in Virginia, once in West Virginia, once in Virginia. I guess the Virginias are not a good place to put.
I guess not.
I guess in Loudoun County, Virginia, I'm reading this from the Wikipedia page on this book. In Loudoun County, Virginia, the local school district faced several challenges to pieces of literature that were instated as a component of a diverse classroom libraries initiative for elementary and high school classrooms. Most challenges centered on the LGBTQ plus pieces of literature, despite constituting only 5% of designated texts for the program. Specifically, Heather has two mommies, which is one that I would like to cover on this as well.
Okay.
My Princess Boy and Prince and Knight received the most requests for reconsideration by parents and citizens, according to internal district documents, with Prince and Knight having been moved to the school counseling office while under reconsideration. Both those opposed and in support of the inclusion of the LGBTQ plus text in the diversity initiative voiced their positions during a lengthy 6-hour Board of Education meeting to discuss the controversy. Byron Cross, a physical education teacher in the district, said that all books that could potentially confuse a child of who they are biologically should be removed. Another parent in attendance stated during the public comment, "I cannot stomach reading written porn, but my child can."
What?
I don't. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I guess this mother who
Does she not know what
clearly
porn
never
is?
read the book.
She doesn't know what
Yeah,
porn
either
is.
she's never read the book or she has no idea what porn is because, there was
Probably
nothing
neither. She's
pornographic.
probably never read the book and never seen a single.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't get the argument about how these could potentially confuse a child of who they are biologically. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't even, I mean, I guess that they could be talking potentially, I guess, about the, well, I guess I Am Jazz isn't mentioned here. I guess you could make that kind of argument for a book like that, but this is just a boy falling in love with a boy. They're still both boys at the end of the day, and so I don't know why they should be confused about who they are biologically.
Yeah. I think what he was trying to say was who they're attracted to biologically. But
I guess, but
I mean, I can't imagine a straight boy reading that book and then being like, well, fuck, maybe I'm gay. And even if they did, like that, you're not just going to be like 20 years down the line being like, you've been gay your whole life and you're going to be like, oh, I just discovered that I'm straight.
yeah.
It's because I read that book when I was 8. That's not going to happen.
Hypothetically, if you were to sit down and write a 2,000-word essay explaining to me why I should be sexually attracted to someone that I am not, I am not going to read that essay and suddenly be sexually attracted to that person.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. There's nothing in a book that is going to convince someone to suddenly be attracted to someone they're not. I'm sorry to say. And anyone who thinks so has probably never been properly attracted to somebody.
Or they think the only reason that they're straight is because they've
Avoided the temptation of reading books like that.
Temptation of reading books like that.
I mean, I do see the potential for, some closeted people to have those sorts of reactions of like, you can't, if I read that, I might suddenly turn gay because I do have these desires that I'm not open about, that I'm not talking about. And so I can't be tempted by that. And in their mind, they're thinking that's not because that's their orientation. It's because they have to fight off the temptation from Satan.
Or they think like that's just how everybody thinks or how everybody feels.
Yeah.
And which is sad.
Yeah. I think I think we need to have good stories, more good stories with happy endings. And
I like this book. I think this book needs to exist.
It was a great book. It's a really quick read.
Super quick read, yeah.
That's the nice thing about spending a few weeks doing kids' books is there's very little homework to do. I don't know. Do you have any kind of final remarks on this, or
no? I just thought it was a decent little story. It didn't blow me away or anything. Like it wasn't like super amazing. It was just like
it wasn't meant to.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's just a standard kid story. It just happens to be that the two main love interests in the book are both boys.
Yeah. Reminds me of, I don't know what it's called, and I've never really read it, but I recall there being like a series of kids' books about a princess who like just does shit for herself.
Yeah.
Doesn't need the prince of the night
paper
to come
bag
and save
princess.
Her. Is that what it is?
I think so. And then
that's it.
And then the knight tries to save her, the prince tries to save her, and what is it? There's like this famous line, something, and you are a bum. And then she walks away from him. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the paper bag princess.
I have heard of the paper bag princess, and I was actually going to say that as the name, which means it's probably true. You're both thinking it. And again, that's a message I can totally get behind. Like, you know, some women just want to do shit on their own. They don't need a man to help them.
Do you think the paper bag princess has been banned? I would love to do that one. That's a great little book.
We can look into it. I'll look.
It's a little longer than the ones we've done.
Yeah,
but it's a great little book.
Nice. I don't think it'd be banned, but I do think maybe it's gotten some parents annoyed. Because again, if not everyone is in line with feminism as a thing either, right? Like, you know, down with the patriarchy. How dare this children's book, you know, try to destroy the patriarchy? That's ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I agree. It's an entertaining kids book. It's got princes, it's got knights, it's got dragons, it's got you know, the one thing I will admit, when I was watching the video and the guy flipping through the book and the prince ties up the dragon, I was like, oh, this is some BDSM.
Yeah, I did think that too.
You know, so think about the way he was tied up. It looked like some of those, like, you know, the binding fetish stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it was intended that way.
I don't think so.
I certainly wouldn't want to imply that the author was trying to sneak something like that in there. But in my devious, perverted adult mind, I was looking at the page and giggling a little bit to myself. But yeah, I don't think that was intended.
Scandalous. It's like you're like first the prince might be gay, and now bestiality.
Oh yeah, bestiality, BDSM. I mean, as long as the dragon's consenting, that's what.
Anyway, we're getting off topic here.
We are getting very far off topic. That's it for me, I guess. I thought this was a great little book. I think it should be in all the libraries. I encourage kids to read it. Parents, read it to your kids. Read it first if you want to make sure that it doesn't have porn in it, because I know there's that parent who said it did. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, unless I read it wrong. But yeah. Fun little story about a prince and a knight who fall in love and live happily ever after. And there should be nothing at all wrong with that. And that's the end of my take.
I agree with you totally. I give it 4 blindingly shiny shields out of 5.
Yeah, I'm going to go as far as to give it 5 blinding bright shields out of 5.
Okay.
I think it's, I mean, for what it is, it's I would say perfect. Not too long, not too short. Has the fun rhymes, happy ending. Yeah, exactly. The perfect bedtime story length.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's been us. Thanks for listening to yet another episode of When Bad Things Happen to Good People. As you may have noticed, we're spending a few weeks looking at children's books. And we're also on a 2-week schedule right now. So yeah, we're kicking back. We're taking it easy for the summer a little bit. But hope you continue to tune in. Maybe in a few weeks, we'll be back to an adult novel, if that's the sort of thing that you prefer us talking about. In the interim, though, you can find all of our social media and contact details over at blahblahblahmedia.com. And a reminder that if you like what we're doing, you can support us financially at either patreon.com or buymeacoffee.com. Both of those links are available at blahblahblahmedia.com.
If you do buy us a coffee, we will use it for beer.
That is true. It's just that there is no buymeabeer.com that I know of.
We should start one.
Yeah, be aware. It'll be, yeah, maybe we'll like be the next buy me a coffee.
And then we'll get sued.
As I mentioned, if you like the sound of my voice, you can find me over at Half Got Conspiracies as well. Yeah, that's me. Anything you want to promote there, Oren?
Yeah, if you like the sound of my voice, check out my album on Spotify.
Yeah.
It's only like over a decade old now, but I still get royalties from it, so go check it out.
Check it out. Yeah, he's a fantastic musician, and a reminder that he He wrote the fantastic opening music for this and also for Half Cut Conspiracies.
You didn't really have to put that plug in there, but
you're a very talented person.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. My name is Todd Sullivan.
My name is Oren Barter.
This has been When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Until we meet again, go read a fucking book.